Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and it is cold and damp in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't care, I'm doing this video because I want to play with this gizmo and show it off. This is the Vicuna variant of the DevilZ Nerfworks concept pistol. The original blaster was developed by Dervil from the DevilZ Nerfworks. However, this variant has been slightly modified by Scott Roca of the Alpaca blaster company. He acquired the development package from DevilZ and then made a couple of minor changes and then of course printed it in his aesthetic, and there's just some gorgeous stuff going on here. I will talk about it when we get to that part. For now, I'm going to take it out into the wet, into the damp, into the woods, and I'm going to fling some foam about, and I'm going to play with this thing, and then I will come back and talk about all of the awesome things about it, the internals, the functionality. Simplest thing, it is a semi-automatic flywheel blaster, feeds from Talon mags in the grip, pull the trigger, and it fires. Super snappy. Let's go see how well it works. It's damp! And I don't care. We saw in the intro this thing is fantastic. I've got a worker curved 20 round magazine in here. Let's do some planks. Partial trigger pull revs, of course, and then full trigger pull fires. Doesn't take much for it to rev, which is a good and a bad thing. We will see why later. Here we go. Oh, this thing is amazing. And I hit some bottles. Round complete. I got 3 of them. That's pretty amazing for a flywheeler this small. Let's try a Tachi mag, which they fit. They look a little silly, but they fit. Let's see if we can get that last bottle. I got him. Let's plink. Does this thing ever run out of ammo? It would be after the last shot. Yeah, that is amazing. That is fantastic. Just the accuracy at this range is absolutely incredible. Super snappy on the trigger, as you could hear. I like it. Let's go talk about train. Train. We're not going to talk about the train. We're going to talk about the blast after I clean up this mess. The Nerf! Right, let us talk about this magnificent thing. As stated in the beginning, this is Alpaca Blaster Co.'s Vicuna variant on DevilZ Nerfworks concept pistol. Scott Roca bought the development package from Dervil and made a number of improvements and changes. Some of them were purely cosmetic, some of them were for print quality in order to make it just print a little bit better. Little changes were made. And then there were some very much functional changes. Some of the complaints I've seen, or at least one person was complaining on Instagram when I posted this, that they could never get a good, clean delineation between where it starts revving and when it actually fires, and I definitely do not have that problem with this. That was apparently one of the improvements. There is a very distinct slight trigger pull will make it rev, and then a full trigger pull will fire, but you can definitely hold it at rev without it firing, without any problem on this variant anyway. There is also apparently the option for Picatinny rail, which I would have loved if it had Picatinny rail at the bottom here, because that through night flashlight would have fit absolutely perfectly. I can even reach the activation button with my trigger finger because this thing is so very similar to a real firearm in form, which some people will obviously have an inherent dislike of it because of that, and I don't blame him for that. From a distance, I mean, from a distance of about a foot, this looks like a real firearm, which is, of course, alarming for our hobby, and it's just definitely not something I would ever use in public. One of the cosmetic changes that he did make was that the barrel does thread on and off. So if you wanted, I don't know, a cosmetic longer barrel or a silencer, or if you wanted to be able to put a non-orange barrel on it for cosplay or LARP purposes or milsim purposes or whatever, and then if you wanted to then take it somewhere where you needed to have an orange tip, it's simply a matter of thread an orange one on and you're good to go. Obviously there are lots, this one has plenty of orange on it, but this is still just ridiculously realistic looking. I would never take this to Borst or an HVZ, but here on my private property or Afterworlds or something like that, this is just a fabulous little pistol. Now it does take Talon mags and only Talon mags and straight Talon mags. Technically the canted ones will fit, but it won't properly lock and it would probably do damage over time. But it will take any of the actual Talons or any of their clones, so it will take Tachi mags, though they do look more than a scotch silly in there, but any of the longer ones are going to look a little out of place in a pistol this size where the magazine is longer. But it will take all of the various ones, and they do all seem to work just fine. For disassembly, in order to get your battery out, it is ridiculously simple and toolless. On this variant, there is this little release right here that you pull down, and you can then move the slide a little bit further forward. It will click, and then the slide will simply lift off and slide out. You then have this cover here that is just friction fit train. Friction fit pops off, and that is your battery housing. You can get it with either an XD60 or XD30 connectors, depending on what battery you want to use. I like Out of Darts' .95 3S's, and if you put them in there and then have the wiring to one side, it will fit perfectly. If you try to put the wiring on the top, it then won't properly close. So wiring on the side, and you can get the .95s in there beautifully without any problem whatsoever. If you want something that fits even easier, you can get the 5.5, the .55 little 3S's. They generally come with the XD30 connector. Luckily, I already had an adapter for my charger to be able to charge them, so I can fit those in there, but I do like the larger one just because it has more capacity. The inside is super compact and super simple. He designed a PCB to make all of the wiring super simple and compact and nice and clean. I absolutely love how he has done that. The trigger actually connects right here to the slide, and the slide then has teeth on the top of it that engage with the teeth on your pusher, and that's how the pusher actually operates. Again, partial trigger pull you can hear the switch activating, and then a full trigger pull will actually fire it. So it's pretty amazing and compact how this one came together. It has one of the most comfortable Talon mag taking grips I have ever felt. It doesn't feel bulky at all in my hands. I do have larger hands. It could perhaps be a 1/4 of an inch longer. And there's just a little bit of squeeze on the pinky there, but nothing that's remotely uncomfortable. There are a couple of little edges that could be maybe a little bit rounder, but that kind of just speaks to the print quality of how crisp and clean it is. The mag release is right here on the bottom. You just push here on the bottom of the grip, and it's all kind of uses basically a tension leaf spring type setup to release the magazine, which is super simple. It also uses a 3D printed leaf spring for the slide return, and they come in 3 variants depending on how hard you want the trigger pull to be. If you have it really, really light, then even the slightest bump on it is going to rev. It comes with the heavier one, but it is ridiculously simple. The fact that you can disassemble it toolless is just an absolute marvel of engineering. I'm very, very impressed by that. Put it back on, put your battery cover on right there. Make sure the trigger is all the way slide the slide in, down, and then you just gotta get it to properly click into place. There we go. Now we're back together. And that is really quite amazing how simple and snappy it is. Super snappy trigger pull. I like it. Not too heavy, but definitely not gonna rev when you don't want it to. All right, so now that I have sung its praises, what would I like to see improved? Well, I definitely want it to have Picatinny rail on the bottom at least. Some people might like it on the top. I don't need Picatinny rail on the top of this, but I sure would love it down there. The other thing that I would like to see is possibly some kind of an actual mechanical safety, a slide lock of safety of some kind, because the one thing you really can't do great with this is holster it, because any kind of pressure on the slide causes it to rev. So if you went to put it into a holster, it's gonna rev. Now I have been able to put it into a AA pouch without it revving too badly, because it ends up catching on the grip. But it will occasionally rev if you're running or whatnot, but it's not bad. But if there was some kind of an actual mechanical lock or something that you had to disengage when you pulled it out, like on a real firearm so it doesn't go off in your holster, that might be something to look into. I don't think it is a game changer or a deal breaker, but it is something that would be kind of nice, just so you could actually properly holster it a little bit better without it revving on you as you're running about. I think that's really the only gripe I have about the thing. This thing is really just beautiful and fantastic. I will say once again that this looks like a real firearm. Do not take this out in public if you live somewhere where that would be a problem, which is most places. We do not need Nerfers to end up in the news for getting shot because their blaster looked too realistic, even with an orange tip. This one's just a little bit. I mean, it's so compact when you compare it to, say, a desert pigeon. It's narrower. It's just in every dimension smaller, and some of that is, of course, cosmetics, but a lot of it is the design. With the Desert Pigeon, there's the trigger links to a pusher and all of that, as well as your rev and all of that. But the slide is a separate thing that is locked into place in order to get that simulated recoil. Whereas the slide is the linkage, which allows you to cut out the middleman and just make the thing amazingly compact. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, thoroughly realistic. So, yeah. Absolutely love it. The modifications that Alpaca Blaster Co. made to it are all seem to be fantastic changes. Link to their Etsy page will be down in the description. You can get them in a huge number of different colors, and anodized screws for all the different colors. You do get spare parts. You get the 3 different weight springs. You get extra screws, a couple other extra parts. Currently they come with Krakens. This is running on 2 Krakens, though they're looking into a 2S variant option for that. If you do run it on 2S, you'll get about 66 FPS. Running it on Krakens, I think I'm getting about 100. Let me verify that. My battery's getting a little low. I'm hitting 84. I know when I tested it earlier, I was getting 100. So. Yeah, fabulous performance, as you saw. I was able to just ting, 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 ting. It's lovely. All right, I think I've gushed enough. This is the Vicuna variant of the DevilZ Nerfworks Nerfworks concept pistol, available on Etsy. Link below. Get yourself one.